Ladies and gentlemen, may you please rise for the arrival of His Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, momentarily. I apologize, that was a false alarm. And now we can welcome His Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, His Excellency Nangolo Mbumba. Thank you. Please remain standing for the singing of the national and the AU anthems. Thank you. You may be seated. Your Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, the Vice President of the Republic of Namibia and guest of honor, Honorable Peter Kashavivi, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Christine Huebes, Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Agnes Shongarero, Minister of Sport, Youth and National Service, Honorable Lucia Ipumbu, Minister of Industrialization and Trade, Honorable Deputy Ministers, and Honorable Members of Parliament, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of United Nations agencies, Ms. Chido Mbepa, the newly appointed African Union Envoy on Youth, Ambassador Ombeni Sefue, Chairperson of the African Peer Review Mechanism Panel of Eminent Persons and lead panel member for Namibia, members of the National Governing Council of the APRM in Namibia, Professor Eddie Maloka, the Chief Executive Officer of the APRM Continental Secretariat, Ambassador Wilfred M. Vula, Chairperson of the African Peer Review Mechanism National Governing Council, Ambassador Linekela Mboti, CEO of the APRM National Secretariat, senior government officials, distinguished invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome you to the State House of the Republic of Namibia, from where we are streaming this event live across the country, the continent, and indeed the world. My name is Desiree Matthias, serving as advisor to the President of Namibia on youth matters and enterprise development, and for today, your Director of Proceedings. On behalf of the APRM Secretariat and the Government of the Republic of Namibia, I thank you all for honoring our invitation this morning. I was present on the morning of 17 January 2018 when His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Namibia, signed the ascension of Namibia to the African Peer Review Mechanism in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. It was a milestone occasion to mark and to demonstrate Namibia's commitment to strengthening our governance architecture through robust processes, systems, and institutions. And to this end, Namibia has scored some important successes in the integration, mainstreaming, elevation, and prioritization of the social developmental factors that affect young people. Today's launch of the targeted report on youth unemployment is a further commitment by the Namibian government to better understand and to address the drivers behind youth unemployment. The premium that is placed by the Namibian government on the development and empowerment of young people is not purely rhetoric. It is a matter of sustainable development. And our president has often reiterated that prosperity that is not shared is not going to be sustainable. And this is the reason why young people have this priority placed upon the sector in order for us to address the structural and economic impediments that undermine the participation of our large demographic majority. It is a matter of democracy and sustainable development. And it is a matter that will require a whole of society approach as represented by the diverse delegates in this hall this morning. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to welcome to the podium the Ambassador Wilfred M. Vula, Chairperson for our National Governing Council, to deliver a welcoming remark. Ambassador.
Your Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Minister of Sports, Youth, and National Service, and other ministers present, please accept that I abide by the protocol that has been observed by the Director of Ceremonies, not to go through the long list of salutations. And just to say, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Your Excellency, today I am a happy man, and together with me, all the members of the National Governing Council, Happy in the sense that we are launching a very important report on youth unemployment in our republic. Let me take this opportunity on behalf of the APRM Namibia family to warmly welcome you all to the official launching ceremony. Over the last 2 days, starting Monday and Tuesday, the Continental Secretariat, together with the National Secretariat, held a workshop on the integration of the National Plan of Action into the existing national development plans, bringing together several stakeholders. The APRM believes that the platform will pave the way for a continuous process of strengthening and engagement between policymakers and the representatives of the donor community, the private sector, and civil society. The platform also promoted evidence-based, transparent decision-making, as well as innovation and lessons learning to arrive at policies suited to the local context. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Namibia is one of the pioneers of targeted reviews, as it is among the first countries of the APRM to undertake targeted review on youth unemployment in 2019. The report was successfully peer-reviewed at the APR Forum of Heads of State and Government in February 2010. With your permission, therefore, Your Excellency, I welcome you all and seek your cooperation in monitoring and implementation of this plan that will lead to the development of our youth, not only in Namibia, but also in the African continent. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for those warm remarks. Now, as I move to introduce our next speaker, a little bit of context would be useful. Namibia is scoring some important successes in the development and empowerment of young people, and also in addressing gender inequities. As at this year, 2021, Namibia is currently #1 on the continent for the representation of women, both in the executive and the parliament. This year, we have a historic number of 56% female policymakers in the Namibian cabinet, and 48% of our lawmakers in the legislature are women. We're also scoring a very important success in the representation and inclusion of young people. And as a historic first since independence, we have up to 6 lawmakers who are under the age of 30. In Namibia, we refer to them as born frees. These are lawmakers who were born after independence. And I think these are notable achievements that deserve your round of applause. With that, permit me to invite to the podium the Honorable Patience Masua, a Member of Parliament, who will deliver a reflection on behalf of young people.
Thank you very much, Ms. Desiree Matias. Your Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Honorable Professor Peter Kashavivi, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Agnes Shongarero, Minister of Sports, Youth and National Service, Honorable Christine Huebes, Minister in the Presidency, Ambassador Linekela Mboti, APRM Focal Point in the Republic of Namibia, Ambassador Ombeni Sefwe, Lead APRM Panel Member for the Republic of Namibia, Ambassador Wilfried Mvula, Chair of the National Governing Council in the Republic of Namibia, the AU Youth Envoy, Ms. Chido Mpemba, all Deputy Ministers and Members of Parliament, distinguished invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am privileged to be addressing this August gathering on the launch of the APRM targeted review on youth unemployment. And this is not only because I form part of the youth demographic, but also because youth unemployment is currently being debated on the floor of the National Assembly, and I'm privileged as a member of Parliament, as a young member of Parliament, to be part of these discussions. So it is indeed timely that we are launching this report now, and it is warmly welcomed by the young people. It is heartening to see such a high-level gathering of senior officials and different stakeholders, and this is really a reflection of the commitment of the government and other stakeholders to jointly promote employment opportunities and decent work for all in Namibia. And this is particularly for young people in Namibia. I sincerely congratulate Ambassador Sefwe and his team on this excellent work. I was also privileged to be able to work with the APRM delegation in Kenya during the Youth Symposium to be able to add value to the contributions of young Namibian voices. And I commend all of you, in particular, the APRM partners, for all contributions and efforts that were made to make such an achievement after many, many months of the development and the consultation process of this targeted review. The National Development Plan, NDP5, is an overarching framework that sets the stage for a coherent and integrated vision to balance productivity, employment creation, social protection, and sustainability. And as a member of Parliament, as a member of the legislature, I believe that this development plan will play a critical role to promote and improve labor force employability and competitiveness of enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, achieving decent work for all, and particularly for youth, is a challenge shared by all countries across the world. Youth unemployment and underemployment are serious problems in all countries, including Namibia. On average, young women and men are 2 to 3 times more likely to be unemployed than other counterparts. And in Namibia, youth unemployment is north of 40% and may be increasing as more and more school graduates are released from schools. So for the Republic of Namibia, the promotion of decent work for young people is a central concern. We believe that integrated approaches are needed in view of the multidimensional and non-homogeneous nature of the challenges facing youth, and a strong appeal should be made for the fundamental change in approaches towards realizing this social justice. Ladies and gentlemen, to address the youth employment crisis, a number of approaches have been made, and I just want to shortly highlight a few. The Development Bank of Namibia provides funding for young enterprises owned by youth and administers a skill-based lending facility for youth targeting artisans and other young professionals in different fields that relaxes the standard loan conditions such as owner's equity contribution and collateral. Similarly, the Agri-Bank also has a number of loan schemes for women and youth, and there was one particularly that was launched last year, encouraging the participation and financial inclusion in the area of agriculture for women and young people. Likewise, the National Youth Service is also doing exceptionally well in providing civic, technical, and vocational training for young people, and particularly out-of-school youth who are not absorbed by the labor market. And these are just some of the many other interventions that are being taken by government to ensure that we are able to create opportunities to meet the requisite labor demands of our country. During my contribution in Parliament last week on this very important motion, and in support of curbing the growing youth unemployment, I proposed a 4-point policy position to help craft our vision in combating youth unemployment. These 4-point policy interventions were: 1, fiscal incentives for youth-driven entrepreneurship; fiscal incentives for youth employment; upscaling of TVET education to serve labor-intensive industries, and the optimization of agriculture and food production. Ladies and gentlemen, this policy plan complements the report by the APRM that promotes enhancing education, training and skills, and facilitating the school-to-work transition, but also encouraging entrepreneurship and self-employment to be able to create more jobs. Goal 8 of the Sustainable Development Goals refers to the need for governments and other key parties to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, employment, and decent work for all. I note with appreciation the commitment made within the NDP5 for economic growth and, by extension, employment creation. Director of Ceremonies, ladies and gentlemen, this report comes at an opportune moment when we are shifting into a high gear to advance the targets set forth under the economic advancement pillar of the Harambee Prosperity Plan 2. We must therefore progress our policy interventions based on research that is able to give us scientific synthesis of the challenges that we face, and yet formulate solutions which are informed by establishing benchmarking and proven interventions. The emphasis on youth unemployment in the work of the APRM is commendable, and it is timely, given the global pandemic that has had an adverse impact on economic stability and consequences for young people transitioning from school to work. Ladies and gentlemen, this launching event marks another incredible milestone in Namibia's development. Let me also congratulate the Ministry of Youth and Social Services. I see the Minister and the Deputy Minister are present, who are already working towards implementing recommendation 2 of this report through its recent announcement of partnership between the University of Namibia to establish and construct a high-performance sports center right here in Namibia. And I would also like to say, in conclusion, that this report is only the starting point for a long journey ahead, and we have to move these policy recommendations into practice. I am confident, ladies and gentlemen, that with the support from all stakeholders and strong partnerships, Namibia will pursue implementation of this policy with commitment and zeal. Let me conclude by pledging my full support and commitment to the implementation of this important policy recommendation. Thank you very much.
Very much, Honorable Masua. Another round of applause, please. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're recording a number of firsts. Today, this targeted report is a pioneering effort by the Namibian government. It is the first of its kind. On the 29th of June 2015, we recorded another innovation by His Excellency President Geingob, where he created the position of a presidential youth advisor, the incumbent being yours truly. This was referred to by the African Union Commission as a governance best practice that should be emulated, and informed the establishment and appointment of the Office of the Youth Envoy at the African Union Commission. And today we are pleased to have in our midst the second Youth Envoy for the African Union, appointed by His Excellency Musa Faki. The month of November in Africa is an important month for young people. It is Africa Youth Month. And the 1st of November, Africa Day, was also the occasion that the chairperson of the African Union used to announce the appointment of his new envoy. So it only makes sense that we have her in our midst, 17 days on the job, in her first official engagement, on her first official visit to Namibia, to come back to where it all started. Ms. Chido Mpemba, you are welcome to deliver your remarks. Thank you.
Good morning. I acknowledge the presence of all the distinguished guests and with all due protocol observed. On the 1st of November, in this year of 2021, the AU chairperson, His Excellency Musi Faki, appointed me as the African Union Special Envoy on Youth, representing the voices of 55 member states of young people across the continent. And this is something I do not take lightly. I am very honored to assume this role, and I promise to diligently serve the youth of this continent. 2 weeks later, I am here in Namibia at the invitation of the government of Namibia and the APRM Continental Secretariat to launch the targeted review on youth unemployment report. Allow me to commend the APRM Continental Secretariat and the government of Namibia for launching the APRM's Namibia Targeted Review on Youth Unemployment Report. This report has rightly identified the core causes of high youth unemployment and proposes solutions that require both systematic and institutional changes within the Namibian political economy. The targeted review calls for an active and direct role of the state to achieve a structural transformation. This is a vital recommendation, and the directional thrust of the state and the Namibian economy is essential to transforming an economy that's heavily dependent on the export of unprocessed and low-value mineral resources. In addition, the role of the private sector can never be understated. Dear fellow Africans, the condition of African youth is currently dire across the continent. Let me paint the picture clearly. In the Mediterranean Sea, young people are drowning en route to Europe as they escape the scourge of unemployment and conflict. Lack of access to internet and smart digital devices in the age of Internet of Things and digital economy. Thirdly, our planet is heating up, and we are faced with the issues on climate change. More concrete actions than speeches are needed now. We need governance from leaders who are in touch with the pulse of the needs and conditions of young people. I truly support and believe that the following recommendations in dealing with Namibia's youth unemployment will bear fruit. The APRM report suggests the following: establishment of the Youth Program Coordination and Implementation Unit, such as Youth Programs Coordination and Implementation Unit under the Office of the President. Number 2, to consolidate the funding across ministries and government agencies. Monitoring and evaluation of all targeted programs that will create youth employment. To develop an information support system and database that will provide information on the composition of youth segments and groups in the country at national, regional, urban, and rural levels. This should be based at Youth Programs Coordination and Implementation Unit. Reforming the education system. Strengthening technical and vocational training education. Legislation on procurement and local content. Strengthening agro-based value chains and value addition for youth employment. And establishment of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Now, Namibia is a trailblazer in responding to youth challenges. The willingness of the Republic of Namibia to open up to the APRM process is an effort to curb youth unemployment and find solutions to youth unemployment that shows courage and Pan-African spirit that can be emulated by other AU member states. There has been an increase in youth representatives in Parliament and executive of the government. The country was one of the first to appoint a youth presidential advisor. There are best practices that I wish to see emulated in other AU member states. In my tenure as the AU Youth Envoy, I will be focused on connecting ordinary young people to their governments, regional economic communities, and the African Union. Solving the crisis of youth unemployment will be high on my agenda, and we will join hands with all the stakeholders in taking the bull by the horns. I will be working closely with all AU organs and institutions to bring young people on decision-making tables and responding to the challenges faced by Africa's demographic majority. In this respect, the APRM Continental Secretariat and its national offices will receive support from my office, and I hope to work hand in hand with all the youth network stakeholders. In closing, I want to congratulate His Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, His Excellency, Haig Geingob, pardon my pronunciation, the government and people of Namibia on the launch of this report, and thank them for prioritizing the needs of young people. May the collaboration between Namibia and the APRM Continental Secretariat and youth formations at large continue to grow and serve the needs of Africa's youth. Thank you.
Ms. Pemba, and thank you for answering the call to serve, to elevate, to advance a common youth agenda. Namibia reaffirms her support to the work of the African Union Commission and the Office of the Youth Envoy towards the Africa that we want. At this juncture, allow me to invite to the podium Professor Eddie Maloka, the Chief Executive Officer of the African Peer Review Mechanism, Continental Secretariat Office, headquartered in Johannesburg, Midrand. Also a friend of Namibia who really needs no introduction.
Thank you very much, Madam Director of Ceremonies, Your Excellency Vice President Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Honorable Ministers who are here today, of course, and the distinguished Minister Agnes Tangangero, as well as the Honorable Speaker, all present here. Kindly allow me to stand on the protocol that has been guiding us since this morning. I also wish to, in that protocol, of course, we also recognize Ambassador Sefwe, who's the lead of the APRM processes, continental processes in the beautiful country, and also take the opportunity to congratulate our newly appointed AU Youth Envoy, our dear sister from Zimbabwe, and wish you all the best, and also to say that all the declarations that you made here, you can always count on the support of the APRM. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me also to join everybody who has taken the floor before me to really thank His Excellency the President, President Geingob, and yourself, the Vice President of the Republic, for receiving and of course hosting us at the State House for the official launch of the Targeted Review Report on Youth Unemployment. Your Excellency, on behalf of the Continental Secretariat of the APRM, I take this opportunity to thank you for opening your country, Your Excellency, for targeted review just 2 years after acceding to the APRM process in the year 2017 on the theme that interests the whole of the continent. I also wish to recognize the contribution of my elder brother, Ambassador Mboti, who's the focal point for his leadership, as well as my dear brother and also elder brother, Ambassador Mvula, for their leadership in Namibia. The relevance of youth unemployment for the continent cannot be overemphasized. We know the figures, we know the challenges, and some of them have already been referred to by the previous speakers. It is therefore important to know that the Targeted Review Field Mission conducted on December 2019 held comprehensive and spirited discussions with a myriad of youth and officials in various cities and towns across this beautiful country of Namibia and all its regions. The candor of the youth and the willingness of your officials to listen to their grievances was indeed exemplary and remarkable. All APRM reviews seek to be objective and inclusive of all stakeholders. In this regard, the climate of openness that characterized the discussions contributed immensely to the success of the review and the report that we are launching today. Therefore, Excellencies, let me congratulate the government of Namibia for fostering the culture of freedom of expression and for being committed to offering redress to youth who are seeking meaningful employment. It is also commendable to note that the government of Namibia, the Ministry of Sports, Youth and National Service, has already adopted some elements of what is contained in this report and are already working on the implementation. And some of the programs that have been since initiated include the update on the National Youth Policy 2021 to 2030, youth skill development, youth empowerment with social skills, youth management information system, implementation of youth entrepreneurship programs, sustainable development, youth development index, emphasizing coordinated framework to streamline the strategies and activities for effective and efficient delivery of services, and indeed the monitoring and evaluation and periodic reporting on the implementation of the recommendations contained in this report. It is possible to see rapid results as some of these recommendations do not require low-hanging fruits. They can be applied within the short term on pilot basis, scale up and extended to the whole country. Although COVID-19 has restricted participation from APRM member states, today Namibia proudly launches a targeted review report. In addition, the launch takes place on the heels of the first country review field mission of Namibia, which ended on the 13th of November 2021 under the leadership of Ambassador Sefue. Following the launch of the targeted review, Your Excellencies, on youth unemployment, which we are witnessing today, it is encouraging to know that the Ministry of as I said, is already demonstrated a lot of commitment, significant commitment to implement the National Plan of Action in the short, medium, and long term for sustainable development, which is the main objectives of the reviews. Excellencies, I highlight this point because the biggest challenge in the APRM process is implementation and implementations. Reviews are a challenge and are difficult to do, to conduct. Reports are hard to write, spend sleepless nights, but the biggest challenge is in making sure that the recommendations that come out of these efforts see light of day and they are implemented. You can always count on us as the Continental Secretariat, colleagues. You can always count on our support. We'd always be there to work with Namibia and to accompany the Namibian, our colleagues here, in the implementation of this report. Today is just the beginning of the journey. The successful implementation of these recommendations that are in this report will result in the improvement of the lives of our people. Youth unemployment is a cross-cutting issue. It's common, as my sister said, we find in many countries. So in this way, Namibia is a trailblazer, is a pioneer. We hope that more countries can follow Namibia as an example and also conduct similar reviews around this same theme. So Namibia is a model to emulate, and the recommendations that are also in this report can also apply to a number of countries. In closing, Your Excellencies, I once again wish to thank and congratulate His Excellency the President and yourself, the Vice President, also for being here, the focal point, Ambassador Mboti, the government and its agencies, the National Governing Council under the Ambassador Mvula, the public and private sectors, the people of Namibia, the civil service and the non-governmental organizations, development partners, the media, and all stakeholders, and all Namibians, and of course, last but not least, the National Continental Secretariat, and on the launch of this highly significant report. I thank you for the hospitality that the government and the people of Namibia accorded to Ambassador Sefue, the lead panelist, the member for this INIS delegation during the review mission. May the collaboration between Namibia and the APRM Continental Secretariat always flourish and serve as an inspiration to other member states within our growing family. I thank you for your kind consideration.
Very much, Professor Maloka, for the role that the Continental Secretariat has played in delivering this report and tabling it to the Heads of State Forum for adoption. It is now my pleasure to invite His Excellency Ambassador Obeni Sefue, who is the lead panel member for the APRM, who is in charge for Namibia, to the podium. Ambassador.
Your Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, Members of Parliament, Ambassador Mboti, Ambassador Mvula, Professor Maloka, and all protocols being observed. Good morning. I should like to begin by thanking you, Your Excellency Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, for so warmly receiving and hosting us at the State House this morning, and for kindly agreeing to officially launch the report on the targeted review of youth unemployment in this country. Secondly, on behalf of the APRM panel of eminent persons, I should like to once again commend and thank Namibia for acceding to the APRM in early 2017 and for having embraced it so diligently since then. Within 2 years of accession, Namibia had already constituted the required national structures, such as the APRM focal point and national secretariat, as well as the National Governing Council, which was inaugurated in this very State House on 6th November 2019. This opened the doors for the APRM processes in Namibia, and at the government's request, we immediately embarked on a targeted review on youth unemployment in December 2019. And over the last 3 weeks, my colleagues and I have been in Namibia on a country review mission. Your Excellency, Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, all this would not have been possible without the full commitment and support of the President of the Republic of Namibia, His Excellency Dr. Hage Geingob, and his government. To APRM, commitment to APRM as a tool to improve governance in Africa, and for his expressed desire to address the challenge of youth unemployment in this country. I believe the theme of youth unemployment was chosen because of the potential contribution of young women and men of this country to its economic growth and socio-economic development. We all know that Namibia has one of the youngest and fastest growing population in Southern Africa. It is wise to work hard to create space for them to be engaged constructively and to realize their dreams by removing most, if not all, obstacles in their path. This is because economic development, political stability, as well as peace and prosperity of any nation depends on the active participation and involvement of all its people in the economy, including the youth. Given the opportunity, the youth can be the vanguard of progress and social change in any society. And they do not come empty-handed. They come with new knowledge, innovation, energy, and drive. Their active participation in socio-economic and political affairs will facilitate the transition and succession processes for the best interests of our countries. Your Excellency, Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, if more than half of Namibia's economically active young population is unemployed, this poses a significant social, political, cultural, and economic risk. It can lead to negative trends and outcomes such as crime, alcoholism, drug use, erosion of human capital, death, misery, and general instability. This targeted review report has well thought out and concise recommendations to mitigate such negative effects of youth unemployment. I sincerely thank the government for embracing them. We truly thank the President, his government, and all stakeholders who worked with us on this journey that culminates in this official launch of the report and its plan of action. It was a great honor for me to lead a group of very competent African professionals and the APRM Continental Secretariat during this mission. Our team, working so closely with the National Governance Council under the able leadership of Ambassador Wilfred Mvula and the National Focal Point, Ambassador Linekela Mboti, conducted what, in my view, was a very successful targeted review on youth unemployment in this country. And I thank them deeply. Over the last 2 days, I was happy to participate in the technical workshop geared towards mainstreaming the National Plan of Action that emanated from this report in Namibia's development plans and programs. Your Excellency, Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the Minister of Sports, Youth and National Service, Honorable Agnes Chungarero, and her Deputy, Honorable Emma Kantema Gaumas, for taking the leadership and for being so deeply engaged in this process. I also want to thank all the stakeholders we consulted during the targeted review, including the young people across this land of the brave. Without their cooperation and support, the report would not have been credible or up to standard. During the field mission, the targeted review team had open conversations. I repeat, open conversations with stakeholders from various regions of this country. And Comrade Vice President, Namibia should be rightly commended across our continent for being such a warm, welcoming, and open society. We had no problem at all to get around or to get any information or opinion we wanted regarding our work. Thank you and congratulations. As we launch the targeted report today, Namibia is achieving a major milestone as one of the first countries to officially launch its targeted review report, thus making Namibia one of the pioneers of the APRM targeted review process on the continent. Again, warmest congratulations. Your Excellency, Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, in our engagement with stakeholders, especially the youth, we could see that they have put a lot of faith in this report and all its recommendations, and that they believe their government will act in a manner that will have a positive impact on their lives and their future. Likewise, our engagements with representatives of the government, we have seen a clear demonstration of willingness and commitment to act on the report and its recommendations, and to mainstream them into all their plans and programs. I encourage such commitment and call upon all of Namibia's development partners to show similar commitment to ensure that Namibia has what it needs to realize its goals in this area. Together, with all partners, this is possible. I thank you once again, Your Excellency, Vice President, and all present for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Ambassador Sefoe, and congratulations to you as well for the tremendous work and leadership that you have provided to deliver us to this point. The three key words, I think, from your statement are commitment, mainstreaming, and coordination. At this juncture, as we move to the apex of our program, allow me to introduce the Honorable Minister of Sport, Youth and National Service, or to invite the Honorable Minister, Agnes Shongarero, who will introduce the keynote speaker. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Desiree. Your Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Professor Peter Kachavivi, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Christine Hoibes, Minister in the Presidency, and all the ministers present, all the deputy ministers present here, Ambassador Ombeni Sefwe, Chairperson of the APRM Panel of Eminent Persons and lead panel member for Namibia, Ambassador Wilfred Mvula, Chairperson of the National Governing Council for Namibia. Please allow me to say all protocol observed. As established during the welcoming remarks, my duty is very simple, is to introduce the keynote speaker. However, please allow me to make a few annotations as the mandated Minister for Youth. It is indeed an honor to witness the long-awaited launch of the targeted review report on youth unemployment. It is actually indeed a historic time for Africa that marks the beginning of a new chapter for the 38 countries participating. Ladies and gentlemen, the Africa Peer Review Mechanism has done in-depth research. They presented a detailed report on the current youth unemployment crisis that we are currently facing and has identified noteworthy recommendations. Therefore, it is imperative that we take note of the work done to acquire this data and utilize the report for the benefit of our youth. Without preempting the keynote address, let me turn to the main task assigned to me and introduce to you our guest speaker. Now, to introduce someone of this magnitude isn't an easy task, but I'll try my best. He is a liberation struggle stalwart who has been serving the nation ever since the year 1985 as Deputy Secretary for Education and Culture for Swapo Party. He also served as a personal secretary to the founding father of the Namibian nation, His Excellency Dr. Sam Nujoma, in 1987, and continued to serve in inter-party positions, including that of Joint Administrator for Walvis Bay during its handover to Namibia in 1994. And as usual, I want to pause a little bit here when I talk about Walvis Bay. Many of our young people, especially the Namibians, they go to Walvis Bay, but they don't know how it happened that Walvis Bay, we can go easily to Walvis Bay. And for that, I want to urge the young people, patience, Emmas, and all of them, make time and have a small discussion with our Vice President so that he can teach you the tricks, I must say the tricks, how to negotiate. He knows it better than all of us. He's a seasoned politician with a resume and a knowledge we can only hope for. This person, our Vice President, has been a member of the National Assembly since 1993, been a cabinet minister for several ministries since 1993 to 2010, and became the Secretary General to our mighty Swapo Party in 2012, until his appointment as the Vice President of this beautiful country. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, son of the soil, His Excellency, the Vice President of the Great Republic of Namibia, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, to the podium to address us. And I thank you.
Honorable Agnes Jongarero, Minister of Sports, Youth and National Service, thank you very much for that comradely and friendly introduction. I should not forget to recognize the Director of Ceremonies, Desiree Matthias. Honorable Professor Peter Ichevika-Chavivi, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Christine Huebes, Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Obed Kanjode, Director General of National Planning Commission, whether here or not, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Ambassador Obeni Sefwe, Chairperson of the African Peer Review Mechanism Panel of Eminent Persons and Lead Panel Member for Namibia, Professor Eddie Maloka, Chief Executive Officer of the APRM Continental Secretariat, Ambassador Wilfred Mvula, Chairperson of the Africa Peer Review Mechanism National Governance Council in Namibia, Ambassador Linekela Mboti, CEO of the APRM National Secretariat, Ms. Chido Pemba, African Union Youth Envoy, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. I wholeheartedly welcome you all today to this special occasion, the launch of the targeted review report on youth unemployment in Namibia. A special welcome is extended to Ambassador Sefwe and his team, equally to Professor Eddie Maloka, and I should not forget also Ms. Chido Bepa, AU's youth representative. It's nice to be a representative. You represent everything. Equally to our own Honorable Patience Masua, it is the first time I see you speaking outside Parliament. Equally to all those who are in Namibia for the first time or are in this hall for the first time or for the first time this year.
Effective governance is a precondition for sustained inclusive development. Democracy is an integral part of effective governance, and that is why Namibia decided to accede to the Africa Peer Review Mechanism in order to share her experiences and draw valuable lessons on governance best practices from fellow African states. The APRM is described as Africa's unique and innovative approach to governance, with the objective of improving governance dynamics at local, national, and continental level. Thus used as a tool for sharing experiences, reinforcing best practices, identifying deficiencies, and assessing capacity building needs to foster policies, standards, and practices that lead to political stability, high economic growth, sustained development, and accelerated continental economic integration. The APRM is a useful self-assessment tool and process. Ladies and gentlemen, Namibia subscribes to the notion that, and I quote, transparency plus accountability equal trust, and is sine qua non to effective governance. We are therefore committed to the APR mechanism reviews on our governance practices and related national policies. We believe that such reviews will provide us an excellent opportunity for an inclusive and participatory process, thus enabling us to take corrective action and improve, where necessary, our governance framework. It is in fulfillment of this assessment process that Namibia undertook a targeted review on youth unemployment in 2019 and submitted a report on the same for review by the Forum of Heads of State and Government in February 2020. The Forum approved the report and urged Namibia to spearhead its implementation. Namibia was further requested to report progress at the next Africa Peer Review Forum of Heads of State and Government in February 2022. To that end, the Africa Peer Review Mechanism National Governing Council completed the National Plan of Action in consultation with the following key stakeholders. A, the Ministry of Sports, Youth, and National Service. It is the first time I hear in an occasion where the Ministry of Sports and National Youth Service is on top of other ministries. Next is the institution as National Youth Council, National Youth Service, civil society, all of us who are here, and Namibia Statistical Agency. The National Plan of Action contains clearly articulated priorities and actions required to address the drivers of youth unemployment or youth employment in our country. It underscores the need for balance, coherence, and complementarity across policy programs and institutions. It is my conviction that its success lies in the involvement of public and private sector participants and partnership, as well as civil society, to take a proactive interest in addressing unemployment, particularly among our youth. Ladies and gentlemen, conversely, the report acknowledges that the government of the Republic of Namibia has, over the years, adopted and implemented policies and programs specifically aimed to achieve youth development and employment indicators. However, the report also identifies several constraints and possibilities to realize high youth employment targets. The report as such recommends that an appropriate institutional framework be established, which will properly coordinate, monitor, and evaluate all employment initiatives with a focus on youth. To that effect, Cabinet has directed the National Planning Commission to spearhead the mainstreaming of the National Plan of Action on Youth Employment into our national development plans and strategies for operationalization by the Ministry, once again, of Sports, Youth and National Service. The Ministry of International Relations will be responsible for popularizing this report or this review across the African continent. It cannot be overemphasized that the growth potential of Namibia and the continent can only be developed through the inclusion of young people into the policy-making mainstreams and economic recovery efforts. Having said that, it is on this note that I have the singular honor and pleasure to officially launch the Africa Peer Review African Peer Review Mechanism Targeted Review Report on Youth Unemployment in Namibia and its National Plan of Action.
Implement. Where's Mama? Patient.
Thank you very, very much once again, Your Excellency, the Vice President. I would like to announce to all the stakeholders that this report is available on the official websites of the National Planning Commission, the Ministry of Sport, Youth and National Service, as well as our Ministry for International Relations and Cooperation, and we hope that you'll be able to access the digital copy. We've come to the end of our program, and I have been requested to move the vote of thanks. And I should do so by beginning with an appreciation to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Namibia, Dr. Hage Geingob, for his demonstrated political will to this process of peer review, as well as to our guest of honor and keynote speaker, His Excellency Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, the Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, and the entire government of Namibia, as well as the APRM Secretariat. Allow me also to appreciate the APRM Governing Council under the chairmanship of Ambassador Wilfred Mvula, and the National Secretariat under the stewardship of Ambassador Linekela Mboti. And in addition, many, many thanks and appreciation to Ambassador Sefue, who has been in the country over the past 4 weeks and is soon becoming a Namibian resident. I think we must offer him a new national ID, Comrade VP. For his stewardship and leadership for the country review mission that is currently underway, and today for the targeted report on youth unemployment. Professor Eddie Maloka, thank you to your team, to your Continental Secretariat for your hard work and delivering us to this point. Our Special Envoy on Youth from the African Union Commission, my sister Chido Mpepa, for making the time to be here with us today. And to all esteemed colleagues and delegates, ladies and gentlemen, both in Namibia and to our viewers who are following us abroad. This brings us to the end of our official program. Your Excellency, the Vice President, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Your Excellencies, senior government officials, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would now invite His Excellency the Vice President and the High Table, joined by the Speaker and the members of the Continental and National Secretariat, to the foyer for an official photograph. And I further extend an invitation on behalf of His Excellency the Vice President to all our invited guests to join us for a networking finger food lunch just by the fountain area to our right. I would like to say thank you very much for your being a pleasant audience. It was my pleasure to preside over this occasion. And with that, I now request you to please rise for the singing of the AU and national anthems.
Let us all unite and celebrate together victories won for our liberation. Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together to defend our liberty and unity. Oh, sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the stars, let us make Africa the tree of life. Namibia, land of the brave, freedom fight, we have won. Glory to their bravery, whose blood waters our freedom. We give our love and loyalty, together in unity, contrasting beautiful Namibia.
Thank you very much. Protocol will direct us.